You get So hi everyone, Michele Molitor here, the Divorce Transition Professionals Berkeley chapter. I am your group leader, and today I have the honor of being interviewed by Susan Haworth, our very own stepmom whisperer and coach and counselor, to share with you all a little bit more about what I do and hopefully answer some questions that folks may have. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Miss Susan, for you to ask away.
Yeah, thank you, Michele. This is a real treat to find out more about what you do. So let's just dig in. You are the mind detective. Tell us what the mind detective does and who are your typical clients, if you have such a thing. What kind of issues do they come to you with, and what kind of issues do you help them resolve?
Sure. So I was lovingly dubbed the mind detective by one of my clients, and I thought it was quite clever. So I ran with it because I'm able to, I seem to have a unique ability to get at the subconscious root cause blocks that are holding people back. People typically in their 40s, 50s, and 60s are my clients of all different industries. And they're dealing with feeling burnt out, overwhelmed, anxiety, stress that oftentimes is manifesting as physical issues in their body, like chronic migraines or IBS, inflammatory bowel syndrome, or even psoriasis or back pain, all sorts of different physical ailments that are showing up for people because they've got so much stress in their lives. And that stress often is caused because of the limiting beliefs we have about ourselves, our work, our worth in the world. So, through my unique process that I lovingly call rapid rewiring, I'm able to work with folks using a combination of positive psychology, neuroscience, somatic therapy, mindfulness therapy to help folks sink into a deeper, relaxed state. It's called an alpha brainwave state. And it's a way of getting your critical judging mind, your prefrontal cortex, to kind of take a back seat and allow your subconscious mind to come forward so I can have a conversation with that part of someone to get at, well, what's the underlying cause of these limiting beliefs? I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, low self-esteem, low confidence, oftentimes caused by traumatic events in our lives, whether that be a divorce or something that happened in your childhood. Those emotional traumas, they leave a mark on your nervous system. And our body is and our brain is hardwired to keep us safe, right? So um, you can thank your amygdala, which is the fight, flight, or freeze part of your brain. I like to call her Amy. Amy's just here to keep you safe and love on you, right? But sometimes she's working off old programming that maybe you adopted when you were a little kid, the beliefs, the ideas, the concepts from your own family members, right? Or maybe even your grandparents that got embedded in your psychology that you just then unconsciously move forward with until one day you wake up and you go, that really doesn't work for me anymore. And so my job is to be a guide, an accountability partner, a coach to my clients to help them A, identify the root causes, B, change out the tape, change out the programming, and decide and make new choices about themselves. Well, I am enough. Of course, I'm enough. And so part of what I create for folks from each of our deeper hypnotherapy sessions is a transformation recording. And this recording is based on everything that I've learned from my client and their specific needs and desires for change. And it's mixed with binaural music to entrain your brain with new belief systems. So folks listen to it as they go to sleep at night. drifting off to sleep very easily. It's intended to have you go to sleep. So your brain does all the heavy lifting while you sleep. So you're listening to this because your brain's always on, always listening. And the repetition of listening to the recording over 30 days literally is what builds new neural pathways in your brain. Hence why I call it rapid rewiring, because you're rapidly rewiring new neural pathways for new behaviors, new confidence, and a new sense of value and worth about yourself. So you can show up more fully in the world and do your good work in the best way you know how possible.
Wow, that's so powerful, Michele. I uh, your typical client is every person I know. So I want to talk to you a little bit about how we can identify good clients for you. But first, I want to ask you. So you talked about some of the outcomes that you get, what people can expect. Can you tell us like a typical, not a typical, but a case study of someone who transformed? What length of time did that happen? Years or months or weeks?
No, that's a great question. So typically, I end up working with clients anywhere from 6 months to a year. And it's a combination of coaching and hypnotherapy sessions, right? We kind of toggle between them based on each person's needs. And a great example is a woman who had her own business. She's working from home, and she'd had chronic IBS, inflammatory bowel syndrome, since she was in high school, and it had been going on for 15 plus years, to the point where she was not trusting her body and not able to go too far from the house. So she was becoming a prisoner to her own body. And it was not good for her sense of value and worth and her self-esteem. And through our work together, over just 90 days, she was able to get at the root causes, the beliefs that originated the the excessive people pleasing, the need to be perfect, which then manifested itself as this chronic gut issue, and turned it off. And so, just to give you the power of your mind, so when she was in high school, she was the star basketball player, and her dad was the coach. But no matter how well she played, every time on the way home, her dad would berate her. Oh, you played like crap. I can't believe you missed that shot. Da 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 da. And she embodied that. So always trying to over overdo to please her father, to get it right, to be enough. And then it manifested in her body in this way. So once she was able to identify those root causes, she was able to go, I'm not that person in high school anymore. And I don't have my dad over watching me like that. I am enough. I can believe in myself. I can trust myself. And her IBS turned off. It stopped. So it was a way for her to reclaim her life and be able to go back out into the world. And then she came back to me a few years later after she had had her first child, and she was dealing with postpartum depression in a really bad way. And again, she felt trapped in her home, afraid to go too far with her child in the car, afraid to go out without her husband in the car. And so we worked on that. We worked on the anxiety and the depression, and dialed that all the way down and turned it off. And now she and her family are thriving. Her business has grown and bloomed in ways she never expected, and they're finally living in their dream home. So it's just amazing what can happen when we shift the inner dialogue we're having with ourself and our heart, and how that changes our body so that we can thrive in ways we didn't even know was possible.
Yeah, that is such a great story, Michele. Thank you. So what should we be listening for when we're out and about talking to clients, friends, relatives, in order
Absolutely.
to refer to you
Yeah.
them to you?
So typically the folks who come to me are small business owners or C-suite executives or director level and above leaders and managers, right? Or my favorites are creators like myself. I'm an artist, I'm a writer. So authors, designers, artists, those folks who come to me with creative blocks. And so things to listen for are someone who's struggling with overwhelm, anxiety, self doubt, or burnout. Perhaps they're feeling like an imposter, even though they're very good at whatever they're doing in the world, but it's creating toxic perfectionism, procrastination, overworking, even excessive people pleasing, right? Um, if you see someone who's dealing with really high stress levels that is causing physical issues like insomnia or chronic gut issues, migraines, back pain, fibromyalgia, or other reoccurring physical issues, um, and even signs in friends or loved ones or colleagues of excessive use of coping mechanisms such as workaholism, alcohol, food, sex, shopping, drugs, or even exercise are coping mechanisms that we all use, but when it becomes excessive, it can become very detrimental to yourself, right?
Yeah, that's great. I know I have referred one woman who had migraines and still has them. I think she's going to work with you eventually. And the other, insomnia. I mean, these are such common problems that are at least triggered by stress
Yeah,
and beliefs. Yeah. Okay. So you have a bestseller out.
I do.
And let's
It's
see that
very
cover. Let's
exciting.
see the cover.
Isn't it
There it is.
beautiful?
I
I
am
perfectly
perfectly.
blossom.
Okay, so
Embracing.
tell us a bit about that book.
Sure. So, my colleague Tom Collins invited me to collaborate with him on it in January of 2023. He had already started writing it, kind of dabbling a couple of years before, and had gotten shelved. And I had done some work with his wife, and that was really successful. And so he's like, "Would you be interested in collaborating with me on this?" I was like, "Yes, please." So we just published it in May of 2024, and hopefully, knock on wood, this week we'll also be publishing the I Am Perfectly Flossom journal that will be going with it, and then the audio version will be hitting Audible in the next probably 2 weeks. So I went into the recording studio and recorded that as well, so I'm super excited about it. And we've been super fortunate. The book has already reached number one international best-selling status in 4 countries and in 12 different categories like business quality control and psychology reference and educational leadership. So we're very proud of what we've created, and it's all about overcoming perfectionism. Um, the bowl on the cover is a kintsugi bowl, which is the Japanese art and philosophy of golden repair. So the theory is, you a bowl that is broken, you glue it back together and mend the cracks with gold dust, so it's then more beautiful and more valuable than the original. So if we take that same philosophy and apply it to ourselves, we are more beautiful and more valuable for the cracks and the wounds that we have encountered in our lives. So if you take that premise and we look at it as a way to overcome perfectionism, to move from toxic perfectionism to striving for excellence in the things that we do, it's a way of lowering our stress levels and bringing more joy and excitement to the work that we do in the world in our lives.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. Congratulations, Michele. And I think it's a good note to end on. So thank you for all that you do and for leading us in a great way too here in this chapter. Appreciate you.
Oh, well, thank you so much. It's truly my joy and privilege to be able to work with all of y'all.